Hi, my name is Jackie Patterson. I'm with the Chisholm Legacy Project, a resource hub for Black frontline climate justice leadership, and it's an honor to be here with you all. When I arrived in Egypt, since I've arrived in Egypt a few days ago, every day someone will ask me, how's it been for me here? And I always kind of say that I'm 75% here, 75% at home, and 25% here in terms of my attention. And this is the reality of organizing as a Black woman in the United States and how consuming it is. We're holding so much in terms of accountability to our communities, which means we're holding so much in terms of both challenge and also in terms of the promise of inspirational leadership that's modeled by so many. So what's also occupying what's holding me in terms of occupying 75% of my time at home is communities like Ironton, Louisiana, where there are women there organizing, grandmothers, granddaughters, and so forth, who are organizing around the fact that they're a community that has been hit time and time again by hurricanes and disasters. They're a community that is surrounded by industry. They have a coal terminal next to them. They have an oil terminal next to them. And they were ravaged by the most recent storms to the extent where their cemeteries were unearthed and they had caskets floating through their neighborhood. And then afterwards, then came through their neighborhoods the folks who are from a railroad that wanted to take advantage of the fact that they had been displaced, that they were down, and they said, this is going to happen to you time and time again. We want to buy your land, and displace them from this historically Black community that they had lived in for so long. And so now they're looking at these contracts that they're trying to push on them to get them to move from where they've lived for their entire lives. So we're working with them to provide legal support. What's also occupying my time is a place like Sand Branch, Texas, which is right outside of Dallas, Texas, which is one of the richest cities in the world. And yet this community, a historically Black community, has not had running water since the mid-'80s. The mid-1980s. And so the community has been fighting to get water since then. Meanwhile, they not only don't have running water, but they've been declared to be a floodplain, even though they've never had a flood in the history of their community. And so that means that the Federal Emergency Management Association agency has now offered them money to move, again, the displacement of our communities that are historically Black communities. And so they're asking them to move, and they're paying them for houses that have been in their families for generations and generations, $350 for their homes and land, and this to be displaced from the only home that their families and their families before them has ever known. But yet, one thing that is keeping me up is the fact that the folks who are in leadership there, Phyllis and Tonette Bird, both Black women who are leading this effort in spite of kind of so much that's against them. So that kind of gives me hope, and it also makes me want to stay up, to continue to work with them and support them. And on Tuesday, what kept me up all night until dawn was the elections and watching the returns from the elections. My heart broke as I saw another Black woman, Stacey Abrams, who certainly deserved to be the governor of the state of Georgia. Yes, and who is displaced by someone who does not have the very principles and practices that we talk about here at heart of what they are leading on. But what also woke me up in the morning with joy was the wins of people like Mary Black, who's for the council person for Raleigh, and Pamela Pugh, who won her seat for the Board of Education in Michigan, in a place where she is constantly getting threats, but she pushes on, and as she fights against people who are trying to get critical race theory out of the schools and so forth. So as I focus on what's happening here at COP27 and determine how to most use my time most usefully, I think about what will it take to make all of this worthwhile, all of these thousands of people that have come together, all the greenhouse gas emissions that were spent to get people here. And we also know the forces, even our own government, pushing back against loss and damage, pushing back against the very types of decisions that we need to see made here. And we know that the principles and practices of the feminist feminist Green New Deal around creating regenerative economies that center systemic feminist alternatives, ensuring democratically controlled and community-led solutions. So we have to embrace the fact that this is not only possible in terms of how we transform our economy, but it's actually necessary in order for us to all, as we say, not only just survive, but to actually thrive. So we saw how the other day I actually did a talk with a group of students, and at the end of the talk, which was fairly not so happy and positive as it could have been, but the person who was facilitating asked me to leave the students with some hope, and then he said that they just that last week they had a speaker there from Pfizer who was the CEO of Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, and he said that at the end he left the students with hope because he talked about how they had created a vaccine in 9 months. And I said, well, I said, yes, I could see that in terms of hope, in terms of what's possible, but what drove them to do that was profits. And so we know that is driving too much of the decisions here. But what that did tell us in the context of COVID-19 is what's possible in terms of people coming together around mutual aid when we all decide that we have the will and the love for each other to pull together. What is possible in terms of universal basic income, and we saw people all getting money to be able to go from day to day. What was possible in terms of being able to provide energy, be able to provide water without the threats of shutoff for non-payment, not punishing people for the price of poverty. And so in wrapping, I know our sisters here is giving me the signals here, so we know that we can, we have a planet that's divinely designed, and it's designed with regenerative abundance. So we know that we can have water for all in a world that's 2/3 water. We have people like the Black women-led work like the We the People of Detroit that's pointing the way. We know we can have food for all. We have a Black woman-led effort called Soul Fire Farm led by Leah Penniman. We know we can have energy for all in a world where the sun rises every day, the wind blows every day. And folks like here on the continent, Everjoyce Wind, running a group called Shine that provides renewable energy to all. And we know we can have safe, healthy, and sustainable housing for all with people like People United for Sustainable Housing and Rawa Gurmat Zion. And we know finally that we can have livelihoods for all, and the groups like Crenshaw Rising, where communities are taking back their land and taking back economic development. And again, we can all enjoy a vision that's more than just barely surviving, but actually thriving in abundance for all, following the feminist Green New Deal principles and practices. Thank you so much.